Hey, long time no see. I haven't been posting because I'm just really busy for months, where you feel like you're just being pulled from all directions at the same time. But I thought I would post something about speculative arching on early Renaissance instruments. As I'm faced with that exact question now, there were no arching patterns, uh, and there was, of course, no standard. On really early instruments, so by early I mean like the birth of the violin, the Amati and De Salo, and some of the earliest sort of violin family instruments, you can sometimes see kind of what I would call innocent arching, or what later people would say naive arching. And I don't think that's fair. That's why I say innocent. Because so as you go more later towards the turn of the 17th century, then you kind of get more of the aesthetic, sort of Stainer aesthetic with very high arching. But that doesn't mean that that all the instruments are going to be arched very high. I mean, like the maximum height is going to be high. That's not always true. You see pretty flat instruments. So there just was no standard. So the question is, how do I arch this viola di braccio? This has like a lira form, and it's a fantasy instrument. So this is made from inspired by a painting by Tintoretto, I think you say, is the pronunciation. And it's just an interesting question because whatever I do now affects the sound, so obviously. And as in the other videos, I've preserved the maximum height of the center. So I have my blades just on like tiny kisses setting, so the blade is just barely protruding. And I guess my theory is going to be just how to go about this is to, as I normally would an instrument, I'm starting here, and I don't want a lot of meat here, period, ever, regardless of my target period, no pun intended, because the ribs connect here at these two purfling lines, and it's a sort of speaker system, transmitting vibrations to the back. And it's a flat back instrument. I've done some ornamentation on the back. So if you look at iconography, you have to be careful. If you Google viola da braccio, you're going to see some cartoonish instruments. But before the standardization, or this gets into murky territory, when was the first violin made? And I'm not going to go there because it's too contentious, and frankly, I'm just not interested in it. I'm not interested in it. I am interested, but it's just been so done over, excuse me for smoking. I'm on my break right now. So yeah, you may be asking, what the hell is this wood? Well, this is Cedrela odorata, so is the Latin name, and which I am a big fan of. And so was Michel Colechon, the great later maker, later to this period, who made viola di gambas with all cedar. I say cedar, but it's actually mahogany family, and the species is the mahogany family. And this is, believe it or not, it looks like a three-piece top, but it's actually a five-piece top because you can't really see the wings, but there are two wings here. and it's just a delight to work with. Except for the fact that I made one mistake, and this applies to violin making. If you're making just a Stradivarius violin, when you join your plates, and I did 5 joints, it was a pain in the ass. Not really, but you almost can't see them, except for the fact that the mistake I made is that I was careful on the direction, the cutting direction of the grain, right? But on this one, on this board, somehow it got flipped when I was gluing up. So when I'm cutting, the grain is actually interlocked here and here. And it's interlocked in the wood itself. If you ever work with mahogany, you'll find that, oh, it's going smooth, and then, you know, it's just the way it is. Sapelli's like that, a lot of mahoganies are like that, so you just deal with it. But, yeah, it's a really gorgeous wood. I mean, it smells so good in here right now. But yeah, back to the arching question. Because the ribs are so deep, also, the planning of this instrument is going to be all gut stringing, obviously, since it's early Renaissance. And what can occur if you have too much distance between the plates? Is that you have a lack of focus, you know? So when I'm sort of musing on what arching to do, I have a locating pin here. You have, when you're trying to decide, especially when you're not using templates, and this is not a historical instrument, if your plates are too far from each other, too distant from each other, then what can happen is you have a lack of focus. The sound can have a sort of lack of focus. And that's why a lot of bass instruments or tenor violas with really deep ribs, or any instrument such as this, like there are many lire di braccios that were cut down. The most famous example is the Amati King Cello, and some of the Amati violas were big tenors at 50 centimeter, and the corpus was reduced, the ribs were reduced to support a sort of more modern playing style, but we don't want that. This one is for me, this is an instrument I'm making. Well, it is for sale, but it's more for me. So it's a fantasy instrument. I'm using crazy woods. But the question is that I'm thinking right now is of the arching contour. Now you see, when you look at it this way, it looks rather low, you know? That's not so high. You should almost stop there, right? And I don't know if you can see, it's a winter day, so you have the chance to work with light, or at around dusk or dawn, you can see the shadows of much better of the curvature, and you can see what I have now is a very muscular arching. You've got this very quickly rising from the edge, and for me that's okay. So I have to decide how quick do I want my arching to rise, and how high, mainly here. So we're definitely going to reduce around here and here, but I'm probably going to keep my height as much as possible up here. So it's just an interesting question, because there are no precedents, you know. I'm not sure what I'm getting at here in this video. I guess the most you can get from this is join your plates with the cutting direction at the same grain. I've done that with violins before, or violas before, and you can either discard the plate or just deal with it. So, but yeah, cutting this way, the tooth plane doesn't care so much about direction. So here you've got this really rough area. The tooth plane, when it's on this really, really fine setting of just little baby kisses, it doesn't care so much about the interlocked grain, you know. If I try to use geez, I can't even speak English. An arched blade, a curved blade. Well, yeah, so this direction, but if I go here, it's it starts and you get all a nasty mess. So I'll be possibly posting more videos on this guy, and there's another one that is actually commissioned. So it's just a cool thing to do. Viola da braccio, a gamba-esque instrument held on the shoulder. This is 46. Again, if you go from iconography, you see entities massive looking. They must have been 50 something centimeters. You have to be careful with that. So the other instrument I'm making is more after a historic form, sort of Silvestre Ganassi / iconography. I'm doing about 20 different drawings before I decide on the shape of the corpus, because again, I don't want to do this cartoon instrument try it after you finish watching this video. That's enough nicotine. After you watch this video, Google Viola da braccio. It's really funny. You'll see these crazy things on like Etsy, and I guess they're like guys in their garage. I have no idea. But you have to forgive them because you cannot really copy from a lira da braccio, because this is a different instrument altogether, you know, with sympathetic strings, and it had a different performing purpose, you know. It's more of a solo instrument for accompanying poetry. In the very, very great Renaissance trend towards looking backwards towards the Greeks, you know. So it's really fascinating. But yeah, I'm gonna do some more things on alternative materials. The other instrument is mahogany back and a spruce top, and I'll be keeping everyone up to date on these experiments and what they sound like. If I have time to do more videos, I probably won't. But stay tuned and don't subscribe. No, there will be more. I don't care if you subscribe or not. That's the good thing about this channel is I don't care.